Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? You know, it's Friday, it's 7 p.m. You are seeing my beautiful face, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of No Label Live, the podcast and show where we talk about what it means to be labeled and how people have worked through labels that have held them back to create empowering stories for themselves. I'm super excited for today's show because I am talking with a young man who is part of an internet media company and he just happened to graduate. So I know just graduating college, there's lots of labels that come with that. So it's going to be a great show. And this gentleman is Micheal Berry. Micheal, how's it doing today?
I'm doing great, Nathan. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. So my first question to you today is, what's got you excited?
It's life, man. I'm seeing just so much opportunity with, social media and all the online platforms that are popping up and everything. And life has me so excited because there's so many opportunities around it. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Everyone has their fair shot at creating something amazing. And I'm just hyped up about all that.
Awesome, man. When I think about, so knowing that you just recently graduated, I was thinking back to my time when I graduated, and I know there's a lot of things that you head off into the world. And when I did, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But what's it like to be a student leaving college these days?
For many of us, it's stressful because trying to find a job that allows us to go do the fun stuff that we want to do while also making enough money to be able to support ourselves is it's difficult, which is why the importance of all these online platforms and the online marketplaces like eBay and Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist are becoming more and more important to, people like me getting out of college or even getting out of high school to be able to work their job and then go from 7 to 2 in the morning and work on whatever it is that they're passionate about and try to find a way to make money around that.
Mm. How did your journey start with using those platforms?
So I had just finished up my freshman year of college, and I had recently quit the football team that I had been a part of for a year. And I'd always had this kind of business entrepreneurial DNA in me to where I wanted to go play professional sports and then alongside with that be a businessman and have like these certain companies kind of branch off from the brand that was me. And when I decided to step away from playing college football, I said, I'm just going to go for it. And I decided I was going to start a clothing brand. And
Mm.
this clothing brand I had at the time, early sophomore year, had not a whole lot of money. I was just trying to figure out how am I going to start this thing. And I went straight to eBay. I just started selling things that I had in extra in my room, in my garage, in my basement. And once I ran out of that stuff, I started going on weekends to garage sales and spending $10, $15 a day, just getting some little stuff and flipping that $15 and turning it into $70. So that was kind of the catapult into, the stuff that I'm doing today. But it was a lot of, trial and error, especially at the beginning. But, moving on 3 years later, I'm running full speed.
Yeah. So when when I hear garage selling and flipping from there, one person comes to my mind right then, and that's Gary Vee. Were you inspired by him at all for that, or is it
So
something?
he's been really, really good at pushing stuff like that and getting people to go and take action to get uh to get the extra money that they need, whether that's the extra money for a vacation, the extra money for, a new pair of shoes. Just it doesn't matter. He's been really, really good at pushing that. I don't really remember the timeline around all of that when he really started to push it out. But I had known about eBay for a pretty long time. I used to go and sell a lot of my old sports equipment because the sports brand stores that would buy back your old equipment would give you $5 for $200 skates, and I was not about that.
Yeah. um, and earlier you talked about building your brand. So if we're using the label and the label is you, it's Micheal Berry. Uh, what does the brand Micheal Berry represent?
I think the brand represents confidence in yourself and just overall being a good person and being compassionate for other individuals. I've always, and I get a whole lot of this from, I give credit to my mother for this, that I want to help as many people as I possibly can, and to just give happiness to as many people as I possibly can. So I think the label of me, Micheal Berry, is just being able to spread as much joy and positivity that I possibly can.
Mm. What's your favorite way to do that?
Just talking with people. I have conversations with I'll go through the people who are following me on Instagram and other social media, and I'll just DM them and I'll say, "Hi, how are you today?" I'll just have an hour, 2 hour conversation going back and forth with these people, just because it's so important to me to be able to just touch as many people's lives as I possibly can. It's just something that's where my happiness comes from, and I know because of how passionate I am about it, I can really bring in some joy and happiness to their lives as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's how our relationship started. If I remember correctly, I think you sent a message to me and we started talking. So you definitely lived that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, what's a time, since the show's all about labels, what's a time when a label has lied to you? A label you've believed in lied to you?
A label that I've believed in that's lied to me. I think for a long time, I used to believe that, and something that a lot of people don't know about me is growing up, I was bullied a lot, but because I was, it was the semi-popular athlete, along with getting bullied when I was not on the field, was something that I had to deal with, and it was just the normal, you're never gonna amount to anything. You're a loser. I get made fun of today for the entrepreneurial, motivational, and personal development speaking stuff, just because I think a lot of people, we're all in our DNA. It's normal for people to be negative, and I think it's easy to be negative. And something that I struggled with, especially early on, when I only had 2,000 followers, and most of them were just people that I'd known from school, and not many of them were people who had followed me because of the speaking and everything else that I was trying to begin to build.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard for sure, just having to. And early on, it really did get to me that people were saying, the certain things that they were saying, and like I believed it for real, and I had to fight with that for a long time.
What's a so I know that there could be other athletes that watch this, listen to this. So what's an example of something that people said when you were off the field?
It would all just come down to things of claiming of negative character, or just saying that you weren't. It would be comments about how that athlete, like how I did on the field,
Mm.
and just things of that nature, and just down the list. If anyone has been called anything when it comes to sports and just being poor in sports and everything, I guarantee I have, because I've been all around with that in multiple different sports.
And so what's something that supported you in getting through that?
I would say the support of a few close friends, and then my mother and father. There were times where, uh, quick little backstory. My last 2 years of high school playing football before I went to go play football in college, I rode the bench. And which doesn't usually happen is a quarterback goes and sits on the bench for 2 years in high school and then somehow gets a scholarship to go play college football.
Yeah.
So there, it was really, really hard on me. And the when the negative stuff is coming from either teammates or other students, that can be hard. But when they start coming from your coaches as well, who the people who you're trying to impress, that's when things get real messy. But I think really the reason why I was able to get through all that was, like I said, I had a few close friends and then my mother and father. There are times where I, after a Friday night game, where I didn't even have to shower because I had put on my pads, stood there for an hour and a half, and went back into the locker room. Where I'd be sitting in the car with my dad just driving home, and I'd have to hold back tears until we got out of the parking lot because of just the 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 lack of, I guess, confidence in me,
Yeah.
and the criticism of me that I knew wasn't true, but I was starting to believe was.
Man, that's such a powerful topic. So I want to one of the things you said you wanted to talk about was goal setting. So
Yeah.
is there some goal that you set that kind of you're like, I want to become this confident person, and I want people to see me for the skills and the talents that I do have. What kind of goals did you set early on for yourself that you've seen come to pass?
So a lot of my confidence that I get has come from a pretty early age. And then, like I said, there were times like in late high school where I really doubted the confidence that I had. But running around as a 3-year old with a hockey stick and everything like that, watching the Red Wings play on television, and I'm over here that never stepped on the ice yet, calling myself already the greatest of all time, like Muhammad Ali used to always say. So the confidence had always been there. Um, but I think the goal, I don't know if I ever had a real goal for the confidence, but it was always to have the confidence be there and have that be the strongest factor.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say, as far as that goes, just general confidence has been there. But a lot of times I think confidence in my ability has been something that has been a battle and a struggle with me, especially when I started to do some speaking stuff. I had a really poor speaking skills to where I couldn't even create a coherent sentence in front of a group of people without, sweating through my shirt and just looking dumbfounded. So,
You're not alone in that, my friend. That's for sure.
yeah.
But stepping into that a little bit, so what practices did you put into place to build that skill? Because you knew, or you know, that motivational speaking is something you want to do. So what practices have you put into place to build that up for yourself?
So the first thing I did was just identify the fact that this is what I want to do, and this
Hmm.
is what I'm passionate about. And I think a lot of times when we look at something that we want, we don't look to the end of the road and work back. We always look at, okay, this is what I want to do. And you start at the end of the road and you act like you're already at the end of the road, but you don't have the experience and the practice in it yet. So what I had done was I said, all right, I want to be this personal development speaker. I'm not very good at speaking right now. What can I do to fix it? So I started studying some of the most influential speakers in the world: Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, all these individuals who I wanted to somehow model myself after. So I
Hmm.
I would flush my head with this information for 5, 6, 7 hours a day whenever I was just doing the other things that I was doing, whether it was homework or just sitting around listening to them and studying them and trying to figure out how I could how I could speak like them and control audiences like them and influence people like that. And after a certain time, we got to the point where I had listened to all of them so many times that I knew what they were going to say because I had listened to the speech before. So then I started speaking along with them, uh, going through the whole hour seminar, listening to it. I would be speaking with them and trying to change the tone of my voice and everything that they were doing. And that's kind of brought me to where I am today. It was just practice and practice and studying all of it.
That's an interesting tip there, that you would practice as you were listening to them speak and matching the tone. I haven't heard of anybody doing that, so that's new to me. So um, that's a pretty cool thing to give a try. And do you think your background in athletics has helped you as you pursue this new path for yourself in like being able to recognize the reps, the practice, what's necessary to become the person you want to be?
I think growing up around playing sports really instilled that discipline in me to be able to do the things that I'm doing now. Because growing up without having that kind of discipline and learning what needs to be done and how to get it done in a timely fashion, I don't think I'd be as productive as I am today in the field that I'm working in now.
All right, yeah. And if if we're talking, like, imagine that there's another person who's maybe a freshman in high school or a freshman in college, and they're sitting there and they're not sure what they want to do or um, where they're going to end up, because there's lots of us out there even past those ages. But what advice would you give that person?
My advice would be to try everything that you could remotely have uh, an interest in. A lot of times, I think we in this technological world, we move away from writing things down on paper. And if you were to sit down and just write down every single thing you could possibly see yourself doing for the rest of your life, and you have it there and you can look at it and you can revisit it, I think you'll have a much better understanding of what you really want from your life, and you can cross some off as you see. That's the one this one saying this one isn't as important, or this one is definitely something that I want to pursue. So I think having it down on paper and being able to revisit it and have some real deep thought about it is a good way to go about that.
Yeah, the writing things out, and I think going back to what you said, the key thing is, what do you actually want? What do you think you want? You don't have to actually know, but you can think, this is what I want right now, and then start to put that in practice, and then you'll figure out if it's like you said, if you want to continue it or if it's not really as important as you thought it was.
I agree. Yeah. Adding on to that real quick. So when we're talking about, looking at the future and trying to figure out where you want your endpoint to be and working back and everything, there there's a study that I quote a lot when I talk about goal setting about in the Yale University in 1953. I don't know if you've heard this story before. There was a study of the graduating seniors, and they had found that only 3% of them had written down their goals for their life and their business
Hmm.
and everything. And they revisited these students 20 years later, and they found out that the 3% of those students who had written down their goals were doing much better financially than the other 97% of the students who had not done that.
Yeah, from my experience, I think it's, if you write it down and you put it somewhere where you can see it every day, it's a constant reminder to take action in that direction. From
Exactly.
experience. So yeah, that's awesome. I wonder how many of you watching or listening actually have your goals written down and they're not just floating around in your head there. If you don't, give it a try. Uh, maybe it's not, maybe you don't want to write it down on paper, but I would challenge you to get one small goal and write that down and put it somewhere where you can see it every day and see what happens for you. Um, I've got a couple more questions. First being, as you look into the future for yourself, what is the next step for you in the vision that you have um, for who you want to become?
I think the next step will not come for probably another decade, but it's to the next step will be where I'm really speaking and teaching to large audiences, and obviously we have to start small, so that's why I said 10 years from now, um, where I'm talking to a large enough audience where they could take what they've learned and bring it back to the people that they know, and then the knowledge will spread from there. And just looking at it from a real long range perspective,
Mm-hmm.
being able to touch millions of lives with my experiences and the experiences that I've studied from other people is the real long term goal here.
All right. Um, how are you leveraging social media to make that happen?
Going back to what I was saying earlier about DMing people, I'm using the fact that I have quite a significant following on social media at the moment from working on it for the past 5-6 years, to where I've put myself in a position where I have a significant amount of followers. So I have a little bit of leverage there to go and speak with companies and just get into the conversation through that.
Okay. And so what's one tip somebody can take away? Like you said, you've been working on it for 5 to 6 years and you do have, I mean, your following is huge. What's one takeaway you can give somebody who's just starting out to support them in growing their brand through social media?
It's talk to as many people as you possibly can. So something that I do, my biggest following is on Instagram. I don't know, I don't know. I can't tell you the numbers off the top of my head for my other social media platforms, but on Instagram, if you go and search a hashtag in something related to something that you're knowledgeable about and that you're passionate about, and you go to the top posts and then the recent posts, if you comment, if you take the time to read whatever it is that person posted and have a real comment posted below that's 2-3 sentences, someone's going to end up contacting you, and you never know who's going to become who. And that was a big part of being able to grow my brand, and what I still do that to this day. I'll spend a couple hours just commenting and liking people's posts and things that I'm knowledgeable about, to start a conversation and to start a relationship with that person. And that's how you grow a brand, and that's how you grow community.
And just to give you guys some context, so Michael's got 18,000 followers on Instagram right now. So there's proof in the pudding for sure. And then how can people connect with you?
Easiest way probably would just be to DM me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram DMs for, like I said, a good 2-3 hours a day, just having conversations with people. That, or there's the email button at the top of my Instagram, which is another good way to get in contact with me and talk with me about whatever it is that people want to talk about.
Okay, and what's the tag? What's your handle?
It's at 7berry on Instagram.
And we'll make sure and post that in the show notes so everybody connect with you.
Awesome.
The final question I have is, what does No Label Defines Me mean to you?
No label defines me. I think I really do love the brand that you've put around No Label Defines Me, because it really does kind of summarize a big thing that I truly believe in, is the fact that your value is not based on anybody else's opinions. And a big problem that we have today, it was especially with social media and people caring so much about what other people are saying in their comment sections, is that other people will say mean things, but you could have hundreds of people saying something nice about you. That one mean thing will be the only thing that you think about. So you have to be able to understand that even the good and the bad, that no one else's opinion of you, it can be nice to have compliments and everything. And you can be grateful for those, but having yourself be in a position where nobody else's opinion of you becomes your reality is the strongest thing, and it can lead to the most happiness in your life.
Man, that's powerful. I mean, to know that at the end of the day, we're all we're all judging on what we think about what somebody else is thinking about us, and for most of the time, they're not thinking about us; they're thinking about themselves.
Exactly.
And we give our power away when we allow that to happen, and we allow their opinion to rule our space that should belong to us, for sure. So that's an amazing definition there. Before we close out, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with that we didn't get to talk about here today?
I would say I would just touch on the fact that everyone should try at least once writing down their goals. And I'll make it quick here. There's an exercise where you can write down your goals, and you can kind of figure out a little bit of a plan, have your life have a little bit more structure, where you get a piece of paper, you get a pen, you write down every single goal that you can think of, and then you number them 1, 5, and 10. You number next to every single goal. Are you going to finish it in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? And if it's over 10 years, just put 10 years, because it's going to be a long range goal. But having that kind of list and going and revisiting it, and it's something that I do on a weekly basis, where I have a notebook that has every single week I'll write down the date and I'll go through the goals. And it's just so interesting to see how your goals and how your views of everything changes. And it's just something that can really keep some structure in your life and get you closer to where you want to be.
Man, yeah. So be willing to give that a shot and let us know how that works out for you. And if something, when you sit down and actually write it out, did you learn something new about yourself that you didn't know before? Like, did a goal come to you that you hadn't thought about before?
Always. Whenever I do it, I end up discovering something new about myself. I didn't learn about myself until quite recently that I have a real passion for ending world hunger. Like, it was just something that I was thinking about, where I was saying, what is something that I can give back to people, because a lot of the stuff of my goals is about me and my family and everything. What is something that I can give to other people and give value to other people? And it clicked with me that I want to do as much as I possibly can to just rid the world of world hunger, and being able to, it starts with just not even having to donate any money to any of these organizations, and can just start with going and passing out food. And that was something that was a big moment for me, to realize the fact that the world is so large, and no matter how successful you get, you're only so little, and you're not above anybody else in trying to make this world a better place.
Yeah, we are all, at the end of the day, just human. And that's powerful, man. And I just want to take the time to acknowledge you and thank you for joining us here today. I know the right person who needs to hear this message is going to hear it. and it's going to make an impact on that right person. And just thanks so much for being open and vulnerable about your story and what's worked for you. And you, the audience, if you're listening to this or watching this, you know you're up to big things. And when you're up to big things, you must be patient, you must be diligent, and you must never quit. And you can join us here next Friday for another episode of No Label Live.